There's been conversations to make sure that the continent of Africa is included in the big conversations. And not just the countries, but youth in particular as well. And this is where SABYA steps in. Well, they're hosting the second Africa BRICS Youth Forum to make sure that young people can get together across the continent to discuss some of the global issues that are on the table.
Past May, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs organized a 3-day seminar in Brasilia, bringing together government, academia, the private sector, to reflect on Brazil's relations with the African continent. And at one of the closing sessions of this event, which was called Brazil-Africa Relaunching Partnerships, our president said, to relaunch the partnership with Africa is also a re-encounter of Brazil with itself. Well, at one level, I think this idea translates the notion that the African roots played a key role in the construction of our country, of Brazil, in the formation of our national identity. As you know, the past united the two shores of the Atlantic, and today culture unites us, language to a large extent. There's Mozambique, there's Angola, there's many Portuguese-speaking countries in Africa. Language unites us. And also culture, the challenges that the past, which was very frequently violent, and unfortunately, the challenges bequeathed by this common past unites us as well.
AFCFTA presents a multitude of opportunities for African young generation by removing trade barriers such as tariffs and network barriers. It facilitates the movement of goods, service, and investment across African borders. This paves the way for enhanced regional integration, increased competitiveness, and the creation of a larger market for African. The agreement encourages entrepreneurship and innovation among young people, empowering them to become key drivers of economic growth. It opens doors for the small and medium-sized entrepreneurs to expand their operations beyond the national borders and tap into new markets. Aspiring young entrepreneurs now have the chance to showcase their talents and contribute to the economic transformation for their countries.
I think the initiative of Africa BRICS Summit is a good one, and it needs to continue going forward, and it needs to preach the verse of just equitable energy transition. And the second thing is basically that we need to develop our nations, and it's not going to take us negotiating with the global south. It's going to take our leaders to take a decision, a firm decision, that we are for people and we want our nations to develop. And the last thing is that the African continent has a very beautiful document that have beautiful aspirations, and one of the aspirations is that we want to build the Africa that we want as Africans, and that Africa is well documented in the African Union Agenda 2063.
As leaders, have got to focus more on economic cooperation and advancing the country and the economic agenda forward in BRICS conversations, and not worry to ourselves too much about the geopolitical science spaces, because our political leaders are handling that quite well. So ours is the conversion of these bilateral agreements that are coming out of being part of these multilateral organizations, so we can convert these bilateral agreements into commercial impact for the country and for the continent. So what was very important for us today was to lay it out there that the Alliance, through its agenda for 2023, has gone quite a distance in terms of opening up trading opportunities, investment opportunities, capacity building partnerships, as well as technology transfer partnerships with different BRIC partners. You know, we've got trades and deals within Russia. We've got trade and deals within China, India, and Brazil.
People have looked at the thematic issues of BRICS and youth of Africa, and they have dedicated themselves obviously today to discussions on increasing multilateralism and deepening global governance, what is the task at hand. And I think it's a critical discussions that actually are taking place, given the fact that ultimately the young people today, it's really the guarantors of development that we need to envisage as espoused in the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and the African Agenda 2063, which speaks about the inclusive Africa prosperity.
Africa is always on the receiving end because of mainly the Berlin Conference that took place in 1884 that divided us into 54. Is it 54, the number? Yes. And before then, Besi Abangone, we were together as one. And then the division actually projected us as different countries, and hence our suffering today. I'm going to be a little bit controversial, colleagues here. Please allow me to do that. The concept of the division of this continent was actually to create an environment for the super powers in the based in the in the western part of the globe to actually own individual countries as their corporations. And then we know that South Africa, for instance, is registered somewhere in the US as a corporation. And therefore, we don't necessarily account to ourselves, we account to Big Brother, who position themselves as Big Brother. Some of you would have seen what happened in France recently, where the president of South Africa, joined by President Ruto and others, actually confronted the elephant in the room to say, enough is enough. Honestly, we have been carrying this yoke for many years, and today, this is the grandest opportunity for us to craft our own future. We've got to set our own agenda as Africans. Everyone, even outside the West, everyone, when they talk about Africa, they talk about Africa, what they can do for us. Why can't we do it for ourselves? So anyone who wants to come in and do business with us, we have got to say, it's going to be on our terms. For the first time, we are dictating the terms. China did it. You cannot go and set up in China. And my colleague is sitting here. You cannot go and set up in China and then you don't transfer IP. You don't get the people of China involved in your project. Here in South Africa, we are very timid. Here in the continent, we are very timid in terms of dictating the terms to say, this is our agenda. We want to, we contribute 3% of the global GDP, yet we are the second largest continent. What is that? And let me tell you, colleagues, if we are sitting here, and this message is for young people, because the globe and the geopolitical dynamics are fast changing in front of our eyes, and South African, particularly Black South Africans, together with our sisters and brothers up in the continent, up, East, Central, West, and so on. We have got to wake up, be aware that the baton is going to be passed soon by those who were in France recently. Are we ready? Because by 2030, we will be worth 3.2 trillion in terms of in dollar terms, in terms of the African economy size.
We need a youth that is going to be participative in economical discussions or in discussions that have potential to change our economy. And with regards to energy, the youth can participate in such that they make a lot of noise to say, government, stop phasing out coal. Government, we want nuclear. Government, renewables alone are not going to work, because we are not saying we do not want renewables in South Africa, but we are saying let us be realistic in terms of what renewables can help us achieve.
So for us, the Africa Free Trade route, not only as BRICS, but as Africans ourselves, presents a brilliant opportunity, because number one, will you imagine South Africa trading with any of the BRIC countries? Take China as an example. As a country, talk agriculture for a second. China is, very big. We cannot feed China. No matter we can turn the whole country into an agriculture site, we will not be able to produce enough to sell to China. And it is times like those where the Africa Free Trade route becomes very important and very strategic for us as a continent in increasing the output from the continent to our BRIC partners, in leveraging that we have, that we have from a complementarity point of view. And I'm going to use a classical example, which is a case in point in one of the deals that we are working on, and that is a supply of your non-GMO soybeans to China. Sizable demand. However, South Africa is producing your GMO beans, which does not meet the spec that China requires. So while we will work on building capacity locally to produce the kind of soybean that that particular market is looking for, very lucrative. However, we don't lose on the opportunity right now when we do have partners that are sitting in Tanzania that are producing the right kind of specification, when we have partners that are sitting in Lesotho and sitting in the DRC. So we're working on leveraging it that is being produced, bring it into the country. We know what the challenges are, repurpose it, repackage it, grade it properly, and sell it too, because the bilateral agreement is between South Africa and China. So the repurposing and the repackaging and the grading of that will then become a South African transaction. But all three of the countries that we would have procured from are benefiting. So it's really taken an approach that allows for the different countries to benefit from just one transaction.
And I want to quote with a quote that says, this economic revolution, ladies and gentlemen, needs a contingency of young people that are equal to their task with regards to both their numbers and quality, as well as their composition. And we need a contingency of young people that are able and that are willing to fulfill to the highest degree possible the requirements of the economic and financial tasks during your lifetime as young people, unquote. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.